B is for birthday, the 50th birthday of UTV. Among those who feel it's a landmark to be celebrated is a public figure who has not always seen eye to eye with the media.
I would say, first of all, I'm glad you've come to 50. I'm 84, so you're a long way and you'll never catch me. I think, or 83, I think I would probably mock them a little about that. But they did a job. They did it at the beginning under difficult circumstances, and they also hit a difficult spot. I mean, when in the 50 years, I mean, it was the worst possible political scenario that was going on in Northern Ireland. It was very, very hard to please everybody or anybody. So I think that they should be congratulated that they have lived to see the 50 years.
The first independent television companies, or ITV companies, had been launched in Britain in 1955. But it was April 1958 when the Independent Television Authority invited applications for a Northern Ireland licence. It would be the 10th such licence to be awarded. There were two bids. One, the UTV bid, headed by Lord Antrim, with film producer William McQuitty on board. The other headed by the Duke of Abercorn, with the backing of George Lodge, owner of Belfast's Grand Opera House. George Lodge believed his top-level contacts in the Stormont government would prove decisive.
He made a misjudgment because the contract would be awarded by the ITA under Sir Ivan Kirkpatrick, and Sir Ivan Kirkpatrick put two questions to each of the contenders. He said, how many people do you have on board as shareholders, and how many are Catholics? George's reply to that in broad terms was 3 or 4, maybe half a dozen shareholders, and he might have had one Catholic. That was the nub of the matter. When the question was put to Lord Antrim, he had, I think we started with something like 30 or 40 shareholders, and of that, about half were Catholics. And the contract was therefore based upon not the technical expertise of the contestants, but the political dimension which they offered to the new service.
Experienced producers, directors and technicians were hired from ITV companies in Britain. Andrew Crockart, who would later have a long career with UTV, was on the BBC staff when the new station started up.
There was a little pact that the UTV wouldn't nick from the BBC. So there we were all sitting around there in the club sometimes saying, you had a phone call? No. You had a phone call? No, no. None of us had phone calls. And we sort of, I mean, I wrote a sneaky letter to Lord Antrim saying, was there any openings, you know? But nothing at all. And suddenly we knew that they must be getting people. And of course, they all came from England, with few exceptions at the opening. I think that added to UTV's initial great professionalism from the very word go, which struck us in the BBC, because quite simply, we were all watching the first programme. It was called Ulster Rich and Rare.
Instead, I want to show you some records I've made of industries based on industrial craftsmanship, something rich and rare and something Ulster can be proud of.
Ulster Rich and Rare was indeed a rare television event, the filmmaker being none other than Lord Wakehurst, who, as well as being a keen cameraman, was Governor of Northern Ireland.
The shark bait has such...
It took time for UTV's initial frosty relationship with BBC Northern Ireland to thaw.
There was an occasion when the very historic broadcast of Captain Terence O'Neill, his Crossroads speech.
If you should want a separate, inward-looking, selfish and divided Ulster, then you must seek for others to lead you along that road, for I cannot and will not do it.
I got a call from Waldo Maguire. He was the then controller, BBC Northern Ireland, which was strange in itself. And Waldo came in quite nervously and told me that they had lost their tape. Something had happened to the recording. So we literally had them over a barrel on what we recognised was a very historic speech. I thought about it and I went and said, I'm sorry, we can't let you have a tape. But in fact, we're going to go one better. We're going to give you a direct feed and we will both transmit the programme at the same time. So there was a great sigh of relief on the other side. And from then on, it was almost embarrassing the way Waldo would flatter Ulster Television.